One of my favorite issues of Spectacular Spider-Man is issue 164, Bugged. This issue is special as it has dual protagonists, Spider-Man and the villain, Beetle. Beetle is a C-lister who's been around since Ditko era. He's in the loser category of Spider-Man villains, and the character has become self-aware of that. We see his thoughts throughout the story as he thinks about how he just got out of prison, he has no money, no future, he can't even fight superheroes properly. He literally ducks whenever Spider-Man just swings by. Spider-Man isn't even after Beetle, he just doesn't want to even try. He wants out, and he needs money to do that, but he also doesn't really know what else to do, so he just kind of keeps doing crime. This is one of my favorite takes on a Spider-Man villain. It's modernizing someone who used to be kinda lame by giving them just a perfect touch of humanity without giving them a straight up redemption arc. It's really good grounding for the villain that elevates him beyond what he used to be. The writer, Gerry Conway, is doing his second run, and he doesn't really have a gimmick to sell itself, nor does it have an all-time iconic storyline your grandma would recognize. But what it does have is something important. It elevates a lot of the villains, and it most importantly elevates the supporting cast. Betty Brant somehow comes out having one of the best issues of the run. I can't think of any other runs where that happens. Joy, Gloria, Kate, even Ben Urich, this cast from Daily Bugle, all of them kind of get more time to shine. Conway makes the world very fantastical with clones, werewolves, dudes who can turn into fog. It's all very out there, and yet Conway manages to ground everything, make everything feel relatable. Conway is writing actually two books, Spectacular Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man. Conway jumbles overarching storylines. Hobgoblin, who turns into a demon. Puma buys the Daily Bugle and starts running good press for Spider-Man, which makes this one of the only runs where the public actually really loves Spider-Man. Fancy that. One dealing with whatever event happens to be going on at the time. Clones. I was just thinking, oh boy, I hope Spider-Man brings back clones because I really, really love these guys. And then there is the final one. The biggest storyline of the run deals with the gangs of New York. And the new kid on the block is the most famous character of the run. One of the greatest Spider-Man villains of all time. The underappreciated, fan favorite, the man cold as ice, hard as marble. Tombstone. Tombstone and Robertson are the standout story of the run. Robbie's one of the best Spider-Man characters, but he doesn't get that much time to shine. I'm happy anytime he gets his roses. Tombstone has a connection to Robbie Robertson. Whenever Tombstone appears, Robbie looks mortified. Who is this guy? What is his connection to Robbie? It's a whole mystery. Robertson has historically been this paternal figure for Peter Parker. Not like a necessarily father replacement, but he's a patriarchal force that guides Peter, gives him advice when he needs it. He has some absolutely base scenes, over the years, and it's just lovable. Everybody loves Robbie. He's one of the most easy to love characters of the series. Honestly, in any fiction, I just love this man so much. He's one of the first characters in Stan Lee years to be like, hey, it's kind of suspicious that Peter Parker disappears whenever Spider-Man appears. It's like, what a coincidence, wonder what that's about. He's very smart, very capable, very rational, and just really meant to be this guiding figure. This run here changes that. Tombstone is the character that brings out an entirely different side to Robbie. Here, he gets to be a flawed figure. Somebody who doesn't always know what to do. Somebody who makes mistakes. It's this more vulnerable side to this, what has historically been a perfect figure. When Robbie was in high school, he worked for school paper. He was going to run a story about Lonnie Lincoln, the school bully who went around beating up kids. Ronnie doesn't like people talking about his business, so he beats up Robbie and friends him into silence. And this is a cornerstone of the character. He's ashamed of it, and then later he becomes a real reporter, vowing never to repeat that mistake. He runs into Lonnie once more. Lonnie kills once again, and intimidates Robbie into silence. Now, once again, he crosses paths with Robbie, and Robbie can't let it go, so he begins to work against Tombstone, wanting to make up for his past mistakes. The story has strong themes that are relevant to politics. One of the first stories with Robbie, his son partakes in protests about student housing. Robbie's son and his friends struggle to reconcile the idea for working for white people when there's so much more discrimination against minorities. This is one of the stories from the late 60s. Racism, and specifically systematic racism, are a big part of Robbie Robertson's character, historically speaking. He's a good man making it through unfair systems. Jameson is one of the white employers who doesn't discriminate. He fully respects Robbie and recognizes Robbie as the ultimate Giga Chad Lord Savior of Marvel Universe. A black man is allowed to be Jameson's right-hand man in the 60s. You could argue Robbie runs the Bugle more than Jameson does, as Robbie is the rational one. The point is, Robertson's character is based, and I love him. Tombstone's arc questions journalist integrity. What are you willing to risk as a reporter? Journalists have a responsibility to the world. If reporters choose to be cowards, who will reveal the evils of the world? It's not easy to risk your life for a story, but someone has to. If you don't, the damage caused could be 100 times worse. It's the dilemma reporters face. Robertson feels guilty for allowing Tombstone to run rampant. People have died because Robbie was never locked up. Maybe that could have been different if Robbie hadn't spoken up. Peter Parker is roped into the same journalistic dilemma later. Peter has evidence against Tombstone, and he is also forced to ask himself, is he willing to risk Robertson's life in order to expose Tombstone? Or does he keep Tombstone's secret? Robertson's plot evolves over the course of the run. He grows colder with harder line on ethics, while at the same time, a bit hypocritically, he becomes capable of violence and even taking a life. It's easy to talk about what you're supposed to do, but like in this story, you get to see Tombstone kind of brutalized in jail a little bit. It's kind of hard enough to read at times. It's very uncomfortable. And as the whole thing develops, while Robertson is trying to protect his family, he kind of begins to become almost low self-destructive in a way in his shame, which leads to his family having a difficult time. They feel estranged. His son has great difficulty dealing with this because, Robbie doesn't quite open up or deal with it the correct way, in the healthiest way, so he ends up hurting his family. I really enjoy this. The story does lampshade it a little bit by making fun of it, being like, what is this, like journalism 101? But it's still engaging. I still enjoy it. I've seen Ben Urich go through this in Frank Miller's Daredevil run. It's kind of cool to see him sit here and kind of be almost a veteran of this kind of dilemma, somebody who has already gone through this, talk to Robbie about it. This arc runs through the entire run. It's one of the major through lines, and it gets really wild. Robertson is thrown to jail. He breaks out of jail. He falls out of a helicopter and somehow survives that like the gigachat he is. He tries to kill Tombstone, like straight up stabs him in the chest, and then says he's never felt better in his life. It's wild. Now, I'm not one for recapping, but I do want to highlight one little detail from the final arc, Tombstone Territory. This is one of the better issues, I think, but one of the interesting bits of it is that during the whole action scene, Tombstone actually ends up giving a speech about who he is and his motivations. And we don't get a lot about Tombstone. He's kind of mysterious. They really try to play him cool. All my life, I felt like a freak. What else could you call an albino? A black man trapped in a white man's skin. People look at me and they saw a monster, but I was just a man. Now I am a monster, and I love it. Oversharing much? It comes across to me that is what turned him aggressive and turned him into the thug he is. He didn't belong. Other kids probably let him know he doesn't belong. He felt like a freak, so he turned into the biggest bully there is as a way to protect himself. And there's a little bit of ego to him. Somebody calls him Mr. Tombstone. He corrects them that, no, it's Tombstone. He takes it somewhat seriously. He wants to come across intimidating. He wants to be powerful. He wants to be above everybody. I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing that even Tombstone is given a little bit of that humanity. This is something Conway does a lot that really sets his villains apart from so many. He just manages to make them human. Even Tombstone just gets this teeny tiny little thing. And it's not much. It's not meant to make you cry. It's not meant to make you suddenly feel like, oh, maybe he has a point. No, he doesn't. He's a horrible person. But it's just enough to make you understand him a little bit more. And that depth makes the difference to me. Conway does really well with believable storylines. And, he does it with these characters, whether it's supporting casts like Robertson or characters like Tombstone. But especially with characters like Beetle, that's where Conway shines. Now, Tombstone during this era is nothing but a hitman for the mob. He's not actually a leader. And while he gets probably the most focus, the Tombstone Robertson dilemma is part of a larger arc which deals with other mobsters. A much larger gang politics going on. That's right, it's another gang war. And a huge chunk of this book revolves around the gangs of New York. This time it's Kingpin versus Los Hermanos Lobos. The Brother Wolves, the Magia and the Chameleon and Hammerhead are all up to their own schemes, with Punisher running around doing some punishing. The Brother Wolves are gangsters who are werewolves. What sets this gang war apart are the characters. This gang war drags in a lot of normal characters. Usually it's just Spider-Man and other heroes with maybe one civilian in there somewhere. Not here. Here everyone kind of faces troubles with the mobs. Chameleon kidnaps Jameson. Held hostage, we get an issue called Chains, focused on Jameson trying to escape, while we flash back to Jameson's time as a rookie journalist who was targeted by corrupt cops. Jameson is forced to choose if he's willing to put his life on the line for a story, just like Robbie and Peter. Gloria is back as she's fallen in love with one of the Wolf brothers. Like, seriously, I legit thought there was some love potions or magic at work because she's down bad for this dude. The Wolf is using her to get some files from Daily Bugle, although he begins to fall for her for real. Gloria has to choose if she's willing to help a criminal in the name of love. Even tries to shoot Spider-Man. This run stories aren't really recognized as some of the best Spider-Man stories of all time. Like, they should be more famous, I feel like. I think Conway writes really good villains, and as both of his runs have standout casts. Tombstone is one of the all-time greats. Yeah, I said it. I like werewolves, both times. Beetle, Carrion, Freak, even Grizzly. A man who looks like this has a satisfying story. A favorite of mine is Molten Man. He's trying to go straight. He's an ex-crook with a temper, so even though he's trying to be nice, everybody keeps testing him and nobody trusts him, treat him like he's still a bad guy. I think it's one of the best takes on Molten Man. I really like this take on Boomerang too. Like, he's not as humanized, but he's also kind of a loser, has that little bit of that tone. Really fun to read. And I find Conway has one of the best takes on Chameleon. You watch him game his ways into a position of power and eventually becomes the unknown crime lord of New York, working from shadows to gain even more power. It's a simple but fun way to use him. It's kind of fun to contrast Chameleon's stealth tactics to the various power grabbers like the goblins who tend to use brute force. Like, one of my absolute favorite panels is from Web of Spider-Man issue 65, where Chameleon turns the villains of the issue against Kingpin and he just hangs back and watches from a distance. Literally, he pulls up binoculars and he enjoys the show while surrounded by a bunch of gorgeous women. Like, look at this little smug. It's hilarious. This is one of the best runs for the gangsters of Spider-Man. But there is another element that Conway explores that I find very engaging, and that is politics. One of the first arcs deals with the new Tarantula. The previous one died during Roger Stern's run. He turned into a giant spider and hurled himself towards Scott, so he shoot him. You know, I don't think I mentioned that specific story in a previous video. It happened. It was a pretty good arc too. There's a new one on the prowl. He's hired. We're immediately hit with a South American dictatorship hunting down political enemies. Those refugees are illegal immigrants, so they can't go to authorities of any kind. Authorities treat them as enemies, so hiding is really the only option. Tarantula contacts Captain America and tells him these illegals are communists, so Captain America teams up with Tarantula to hunt these people down. To these people who are only trying literally not to die, Captain America is just as bad as Tarantula. They fear the Shield. In his quest to destroy the communists, Captain America attacks genuinely good people, innocent people, including Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always dealt with politics, and some of the all-time best runs deal with controversial topics. Peter Parker is a regular guy, which means he lives with politics all around him. Conway goes hard on this angle, which brings a level of reality to everything. Usually you want that in your Spider-Man stories. This run deals with some fantastical plots. Another part of the run gives you more of the demonic side of Spider-Man. Hobgoblin gets a makeover. Macendale's Hobgoblin makes a deal with a demon for power. This power turns Hobgoblin into a real demon with magical powers and demonic appearance. Although he never really uses those demon powers, so who cares? Like, this face is no longer a mask. It's his genuine face now. I don't care for Demon Goblin. Like, I'll be honest, I never have. And now seeing entirely a Hobgoblin saga, I care for it so much less. I'm tired of Hobgoblin, and I just don't care at this point. What's worse, Hobgoblin is relegated to small-scale stuff, like he works as a henchman or just wants to do very minor plots. That's just below Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin was the guy making larger schemes, and he's been relegated into a hitman for a B-tier villain. I mean, that was what he was in the last run, but I don't know, I assumed there would have been a bigger plot or a plot twist eventually. Here, there just isn't. He's just a loser. And it hurts. It genuinely hurts. Absolutely none of the schemer I love has survived. Granted, he's a bit of a different person now. This is Hobgoblin 2, so we're giving him his own gimmick. But it's just not working. If you want to do this, he should have his own mental entirely. It feels like they gave Chameleon the schemer role in this run, and Hobgoblin is now left with nothing but a B-tier henchman role. I don't know, man. It's just, no. Maybe the team just like demon powers, because Hobgoblin is not the only one running around with borderline magic powers. Conway loves to revisit his own ideas. Hammerhead, Punisher, the clones. Now we're starting to get convoluted. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to complain much. You know, this is not convoluted. Not yet. Okay, so Gwen's clone is back in Annual Issue 8. Conway makes two major retcons here. Warren wasn't capable of cloning at all, only genetic modification, which means Spider-Man clone wasn't a clone. It was just Warren's assistant who was turned into Peter Parker. That begins the question, who is Gwen? Gwen is this random woman who was turned into a Gwen. That's a really odd thing to add to the story. Like, the characters talk about how unrealistic clones was. Like, obviously you couldn't clone, but I don't know, like, this path here is like way more difficult to comprehend and adds nothing to the story. And I don't know, like, it certainly doesn't make it more believable to me. It just makes it more complex. But this all does beg the question. Clone Peter was the assistant and Gwen was this random woman. But there was a third clone. All I wanna know is, who the heck is Carrion? Warren transforms people into other people with a virus which is released, and this accidentally transforms Malcolm McBride, turning him into the second Carrion with all of Warren's memories and obsessive need to take revenge on Spider-Man. Carrion 2 has more of a duality to him. Carrion retains a piece of the real person, McBride, inside him. I love this moment in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 163 where he steals a picture of his mother and he just stares at her. You don't get his thoughts, just this look. He's unusually quiet, lost in thought. It's like he's forgotten Spider-Man entirely. The original Carrion was just a cruel person looking for revenge, obsessively, nothing more. And we don't find out who the original Carrion actually is. His identity remains a mystery by the end of the story, unless I'm stupid and missed it. He is nothing but a husk for revenge, whose identity was truly stolen from him to the point that even we, the reader, don't know. Carrion 2 is more than that. The clone retcon? It's dumb. It's way worse than pseudoscience and it adds nothing of value to the previous stories, but Carrion's inner struggle is generally really good. I feel like you would have been better off creating an entirely new villain for this. At least something good came out of it. Carrion and Hobgoblin appear many times throughout, so they are a consistent force through the story. Another part of this era that has now becoming a norm is events. This run coincides with two events, Inferno and Acts of Vengeance. Now you might ask yourself, what is Inferno? I don't know. They never explain it. You gotta go read X-Men to find out, and I'm not picking up fourth book to find out. The other event is Acts of Vengeance. A bunch of villains get together and switch which hero each of them is gonna fight, so Spider-Man goes against the Smuggler, Brothers Grimm, Pacebot Pete, and the like. The major issue I have with these issues is the A-plot. They dedicate a lot of space into explaining what the event in each issue is. Each issue begins with the villains plotting to take down their heroes, explaining exactly what the Acts of Vengeance plan is. From time to time, you cut to Dr. Doom monologuing, never stop being you, king. Then in the end, we return to confirm this event will keep going. It's a lot of pages wasted. The villains feel out of place and limited in what they can do. Peter himself touches whatchamacallit and gains superpowers for the event. He can fly, he's strong and durable, he can shoot energy blasts. He becomes Captain Universe for this time. The villain will drop an entire building on Spider-Man, and Spider-Man just uses his new powers to web up the entire thing. It's a new scale for the character, but beyond the mild cool factor, it's nothing particularly interesting. Spider-Man doesn't have to reconsider his job or his morality or face any internal change. He can do bigger feats, and that's kinda it. It's all spectacle, nothing more. Admittedly though, some of the art goes really hard. Some of these panels are just weirdly moody and really good for no reason. I don't know. It just goes kind of hard. Monkey brain, like. Sal Buscema is the main artist for Conway's Spectacular Spider-Man run, and Buscema has put up a special case as an artist. Sal Buscema has drawn Spider-Man before. He did it in the 70s during the Len Wayne's run, and he did it again for the first few years of Spectacular Spider-Man. He was one of the only long-running artists for the book, doing 18 issues and returning for some later one. A decade later, Sal is now given the main artist role in Spectacular, working alongside Conway, and Sal would go on to become a very long-running artist for the book, as he'll stay as the main artist for the next writer as well, J.M. DeMatteis. This is quite odd. Spectacular Spider-Man is a book that's quite notable for not having main artists. Seriously, the book changes artists every other issue. Having 5 issues in a row is a feat. The only exceptions really being Al Milgrom and Sal Buscema. Truth be told, I did not like Sal's take on Spider-Man. Sal's an old school artist. Sal's art is quite Kirby-esque, big and bombastic. Characters are powerful and expressive, not a lot of details, and the backgrounds are just empty. It's a very old school looking art. He's clearly talented, but I find his style clashes with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is small, where Sal is big. But there's a quite big difference between 70s Buscema and late 80s Buscema. In the 70s, Marvel had a clear in-house style all the others were imitating. For Spider-Man, that was Romita Sr. style. Presumably this was a mandate because everybody did it. By now, artists are allowed to branch out a little bit more, and Buscema's style, it's recognizably him. There are crucial differences that kind of differentiate these eras. Buscema's faces are toned down here, especially the eyes. Characters used to have these round eyes, which made the characters look like they were utterly insane. Now the characters just look more normal. They're expressive, but believable. The characters have more details in than before. Tombstone's face is straight up unsettling with all these lines and sharp teeth, and that Lego looking hair. The lack of shadows feels is probably conscious choice, which I'll be honest, I don't really like. It makes everything look empty. I think it's his greatest flaw here, really. There's nothing going on in the background, and the lack of shadows make everything look a little unfinished to me. During this time, Amazing Spider-Man had McFarlane doing his art, and his art is pretty revolutionary for the character. Spectacular Spider-Man is old school. I'm guessing Marvel wanted to play it safe and give fans an older style book in case McFarlane didn't pan out and people didn't like it. The art is good, but it's odd to jump between these books. It just feels weirdly outdated. Traditionally, the main book, Amazing Spider-Man, is the art where the art was safer. Spectacular Spider-Man was the book with the more creative art, with cascade of different artists bringing in more personality to the book. It's in Spectacular Spider-Man we find the more exciting work of Buckler and his inkers, who use more cinematic noir feeling style with heavy shadows and paneling inspired by movies. This era reverses that. Amazing Spider-Man is the one representing the new generation, while Spectacular harkens back to the old. Like, I don't know. That switch up is very interesting to me. Conway himself is a bit of an old school writer, so I do think Buscema fits Conway quite well in that regard. His storytelling is really good. He has Tombstone, looks unsettling. He has his hands in his pockets, kind of cool ulterior, which adds a lot of character to him. It's simple, but really effective. And there are some really good action scenes here. I really enjoy Tombstone and Spider-Man's fight, where it's like Tombstone is just jumps off a building to grab Spider-Man from the air. It's insane because he's a normal dude. He doesn't even have superpowers by this point. It's really fun. And the whole scene is intercutting between Robertson and the fight scene with Spider-Man. It's really cool. It's really effective. I don't consider it very impressive art, but I do think it gets the job done. Like, these dead faces are pretty good summary of Buscema. Like, it's really goofy looking, like the dude's tongue is coming out and it's a little much, but at the same time, I can't help but be unnerved by it. It looks weird, it looks a little creepy. It's silly, but it's also effective, I think. And for me, personally, Buscema is here constantly. Like, he doesn't miss, I believe, a single issue on his Spectacular run. And to me, a cohesive book is almost worth any kind of downsides because I just enjoy the consistency. It feels really good to read because of that. Now, one of the last storylines deals with Puma. He buys Daily Bugle. He makes a mistake of going after Spider-Man because he thinks Spider-Man did something, but Spider-Man didn't do, so he feels like he's in some sort of debt to Spider-Man. It's really weird, and it leads to him buying Daily Bugle, and he tries to turn the New Yorkers into Spider-Man fans, and he actually succeeds quite a bit, so the New York actually likes Spider-Man during this era, which is kind of cool to see. It's like, we don't usually get that, so it's, hey, like, different vibes. Last time Conway did this, he made everybody absolutely hate Spider-Man. He made him New York's most wanted. So, I don't know. I guess it's a good time in his life. And this storyline is, for most part, kind of whatever. It's kind of there. He kind of pops in, explains that he is the product of a long lineage of gene modification or something. I honestly kind of skip every time he starts talking about his backstory because he does it so many times. And then, he kind of does nothing. Kind of there. It just reminds you, like, remember, Puma exists. And it's like, okay, why? And it's like, Puma exists. And it's really kind of like, he's too passive of a character to be interesting. But it does have a finale in Spectacular Spider-Man. Peter and Puma decide to duke it out in some sort of duel. And it gets really weird, kind of trippy. They journey in the middle of a desert and they drink some potions, which makes them trip. And they start seeing visions, and they kind of, you get these really interesting art, especially for Buscema, where he is drawing these avatars, these shadow avatars of a puma and a spider fighting it out, their inner selves or something. I don't really know what is going on, but it looks cool. And it's kind of a fun issue. It's something interesting. And then, that is followed by an actual fight. And in the desert, and it's again, an absolute banger of a fight. I really enjoy these two issues from Buscema. And it's very interesting because it feels like he is doing something a little different. It feels like he's evolving here. Like, this is almost McFarlane-esque with, like, thinner panels. Like, he never goes McFarlane or anything, but it feels like he's learning from that side of Spider-Man art. There's thinner panels, which are like, like that got like moody vibes, and it's like a lot of shadows. It's kind of unusual for him, and it really works. It's good art, and it's a very effective issue, even though storyline-wise, it's kind of one of the lesser overarching stories, but it's got a cool payoff here. Now, on the other side of is Web of Spider-Man, which has a much larger variety of artists, mainly led by Alex Saviuk. Saviuk does most of these issues, and my favorite issues are rematch with the Grizzly issue. I already mentioned it before, but it's a fantastic issue. I highly recommend checking out issue 58. I love how he draws the wolf brothers, the werewolves. You know, they're just very animalistic and ferocious. They feel dangerous just looking at them. They're just foaming at their mouths, get a piece of anybody. Another favorite of mine is All That Glitters with Molten Man. Molten Man, I specifically want to highlight the fight scene between Spider-Man and Molten Man. I think I mentioned in my Ditko video. There, Ditko draws the Molten Man and Spider-Man fighting in the dark, and I said I want more of that because it's one of my favorite visuals. I love my negative space. This is more of that. You know, Saviuk clearly saw the same thing and was like, do that. It harkens back to Ditko, but takes it further, and it's just really good. I love it. I just adore it. It's such a fantastic looking fight scene. And then there is the surprise entry that I just have to mention. I will say, like, also there's Tombstone Territory. Already talked about that one, but it's really good. It looks beautiful. But a big one I want to bring up is Clouds from a Distant Storm, issue 63. This is a Betty Brant issue. And that sounds like it's going to be bad, and it's like usually would be, but not here. It is kind of well written. It's gets deeper into Betty Brant's character. It explores the fact that she has this desperate need to be loved. She needs the approval of men, and it gets a little bit deeper into her psyche, and it kind of explores how she needs to get over that. And we actually get a rare mention of her brother. Oh my god, like, I personally forgot that happened, but yeah, she used to have a brother. He died. It's great to see that come back around, and this is a great issue. It really gets deeper into her character, and one of the things that make it work is the visuals. It's just really good looking story. I think it's a highlight. It does have the main villain of Mr. Fear, who is a scarecrow wannabe. He uses fear toxin to make people's greatest fears to come to life, which is like a little questionable, but you know, it's a great looking issue. But I want to mention specifically Chains. It's one of my favorite issues. I know I'm saying favorite a lot, but this run has so many bangers in here that it's like they're all my favorites. Like, it's such a good run. It really is just consistent quality mostly throughout. And really the main miss being the clone. And I love how Chains intercuts between the past and the present. I really love this specific moment where Jameson is trying to pull himself free from his chains. He keeps fighting until his hands bleed. I love seeing this fighting spirit in Jameson. It's really effective story, and I highly recommend it. It's one of those ones, it's like from this run, it's absolutely worth checking out. It's really good. There is one storyline that is the Night and the Fog. These two are a villain couple who go basically, you know, hired assassins. They go around killing people. And they're based in, what is it, Liverpool, I believe. This dude can turn into Fog, and he's just really nasty, horrible person who kind of enjoys this kind of stuff, just chokes people out, and it's kind of horrifying. You can't really punch him. It's one of those kinds of villains, and I really enjoy that. And Knight is this more sympathetic kind of guy who's not necessarily born to be bad, but he's dragged into this horrible life by Fog. Fog is kind of manipulating him, kind of pushing him into being the worst version of himself. So it's you kind of get this interesting push and pull of Knight being somebody who can be better, but not necessarily is. It's an interesting dynamic. I really enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it for 3 issues, you know? In the middle of there's this storyline where this dude tries to hit on MJ and is trying to be like, ooh, is MJ gonna cheat? Skip! This is the first time Christie's character actually goes anywhere. Christie, like, the point of the character is that she has bulimia and ends up in the hospital. Her parents yell at her and blame her for eating disorder and straight up give her up because they care for her apparently so little. MJ takes Christy in because MJ sees herself in Christy, a girl from a broken family. MJ decides to be the support she didn't have to Christy. Like, I still don't care for Christy, but it gives MJ a little bit more to do. I guess it serves as a PSA, which in the 80s probably wasn't as much common knowledge, so I guess it's fine. It's at least something. Conway's run is the last run of the 80s alongside McFarlane. He closes it out with Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and he does release Parallel Lives, which is one of the definitive MJ's Peter Parker stories. It's fantastic. I love Parallel Lives. It's great. With that, we leave the 80s and enter 90s. With Larson, Beckley, Clones, and in Spectacular, there's a little bit of an interlude with Kurt Busiek doing 2 issues. Honestly, kind of feels good to be done with another decade. Completely. There is nothing left. I really didn't miss anything except Marvel Team Up, but I'm pretty sure that's it. That's everything. It feels good. It's a lot meatier of a decade, and somehow 90 is going to be even meatier. It's going to take a while, but I'm definitely not going to go for completion run for the 90s. I think I'm going to be honest, I'm already annoyed by this constant jumping, and I think I've met my limit. I'm kind of done. I'm just going to read just the main ones. Clone Saga, I'm just going to read through Omnis. Conway is one of the better runs. I think it's honestly probably the most consistent quality run alongside Stern. Like, I really don't think I've had so consistently enjoyed a run except for like Stern or, I don't know, maybe Conway's original run. I genuinely think this is an all-time great. It's one of the better runs. Like, it's not the best storylines of all time necessarily, except for like few in there I think deserve to be recognized amongst the greatest, but it is so consistently fantastic that it's absolutely just by median it goes above the average. It's such a great run. I highly recommend this run. I am in love with it. And 80s has been genuinely probably my favorite decade of Spider-Man. Like, you know, I think 60s is really solid, but it's also kind of has some growing pains going on as it is figuring out Spider-Man. It's a little bit dated. I love the dated nature of it, but it is still old. This is a lot more modern. It has just enough advancement that I just enjoy without really any conditions. I loved almost every single run. There really isn't a whole lot misses. Like what, Gang War? And that's about it. It really is just the end of Hobgoblin. And there's like, I think a bad storyline here with like Avengers that I mentioned, but who cares? It's a throwaway storyline. Beyond that, it's just been hit after hit after hit after hit. And 90 is going to keep that up for a moment at least. It's really incredible. And I think people don't talk about just how consistent Spider-Man has been as a book. First 150 issues, all-time great, you know, like classic, followed by Wayne, which is, you know, solid. It's like a DLC expansion. You know, it's not that notable, but it's still solid enough. Wolfman, O'Neill, that's like what, you know, like 18, 19 issues of bad issues. It's like a year and a half's worth of bad issues. After that, we're back to Stern and DeFalco and Peter David, and now these guys. It's insanely steady in quality. Although, despite having decades, really, worth of fantastic storyline and fantastic runs, it's all soon about to come crashing down with DeMatteis. I love DeMatteis. He makes me feel like a child within, but with that, we would have reached the Clone Saga. And with that, we enter the next third of Spider-Man books. And it's going to be definitely something.